What's up, meta nerds? This video is all about the Sun Guard, the mysterious organization that were both Sith cultists and mercenaries. They started off as a special forces group in the Thyrscian military, with Thyrscians being an evolutionary offshoot of the Echani, who were a near-human species. Their people were deeply religious, who believed that they drew spiritual energy from the sun of their homeworld. Their armor was based off of that worn by the Republic Senate, and was packed full of high-tech equipment. The visor could scan in infrared and ultraviolet wavelengths, and had this drop-down macro-binocular scope. This armor could vary in color from yellow, black, silver, or red, and it is said that their belts and commas inspired the look of the later Grand Army of the Republic. They were skilled in the Echani martial arts, which would later be adapted and used by Palpatine's royal guards, and they used this close-quarters fighting style combined with vibroblades in their gauntlets, boots, and knee pads. In addition to this, the metal on their forearms and hands could be heated to temperatures that could burn flesh, and many of them would work in dart launchers and flamethrowers into their gauntlets, similar to many Mandalorians. Their main weapon was a double-bladed vibro pike, which was made of cortosis ore to block lightsaber attacks. They would also use solar pikes, which were similar, but had blades that would heat up to be red hot during combat. Force pikes would often be used when they ran up against Mandalorians, because these weapons had a stun setting that could pass a charge to their rivals' jetpacks that would either disable them or cause them to explode. Their Echani descendants had a matriarchal society that was composed of light-skinned moon worshippers, but the Thyrscians were dark-skinned sun worshippers whose society was run by men. They seceded from the Echani command and were constantly developing their military strength in order to keep their independence. This resulted in a couple hundred years of fighting, ranging roughly from 1154 to 899 BBY, ending with the signing of the Pact of Almet, which finally got THYRSUS recognized as independent from the Echani. No longer having a war to fight in, these highly trained elite soldiers took their skills elsewhere, roaming the galaxy as mercenaries. This of course brought them into contact with the Mandalorians, who were expanding at an alarming rate. Both of these honor-bound warriors would settle disagreements by having individuals carry out duels to the death instead of engaging in all-out war. This worked for hundreds of years, before they both tried to grab the Horned Throne of the planet Syntheti in 402 BBY, resulting in 3 years of open war between these two groups. Sometime later, they were convinced that their prophecy of the Son of Suns that will come and save the galaxy would actually be a Sith Lord. The abilities in the dark side of the Force aligned with the martial ethics of the Sun Guard, and although most were not Force sensitive, in any population that is large enough, there will always be some random Force sensitives that develop, and they started to revere both the power of their sun and the power of the dark side, making many classify them as Sith cultists. About 100 years before the Republic became the Empire, the Sun Guard started to work heavily with the Mun bankers, and some came to be employed by Darth Plagueis. He arranged for them to have training grounds on the planet Hypori, and even used them to clean up the mess left by a young Palpatine when he killed his family. The Sun Guard would also be used to kidnap, intimidate, or sometimes execute rivals of Plagueis' company. Palpatine was once captured, and Plagueis sent almost all of his Sun Guards to rescue him, retaining only 2 personal bodyguards. Some Mandalorian assassins saw this opportunity and tried to take out the powerful Mun. His guards were killed, but they bought enough time for Plagueis to escape. In 33 BBY, the King of Naboo launched an attack on Sojourn, leveling Plagueis' facility and killing all of his Sun Guards, requiring him to order more mercenaries from THYRSUS, which were now used to protect Palpatine and Plagueis at each of their Coruscant penthouses. The future Emperor used their services to eliminate any senators or businessmen who did not fit into his grand plan. When Sidious was elected to Supreme Chancellor, Plagueis dismissed his guards, so that the two Sith could discuss their next move, but sadly for the Mun, Palpatine took advantage of this and killed his master. The Clone Wars could have looked very different, as a Sun Guard warrior was actually in the consideration for being the clone template, but in a massive insult, they went with the rival bounty hunter that worked with the Mandalorian mercenaries. Some guards fought during the Clone Wars, during attacks on Kashyyyk, and another rival, the Mistral Shadow Guards. And when Palpatine felt that they served their purpose, he had Dooku send Ventress to execute almost all of them. He did spare some of the most loyal Sun Guards, and they would later become members of the Royal Guard. A few Force sensitives among them became the Emperor's Shadow Guard, while Kenneth's Jur was cloned by the Empire. Many of the next generation of Thursians joined the Imperial Army, and though they were unaware that it was Palpatine who had most of the Sun Guard murdered, Thursian culture was split over the new Emperor, with some feeling that he was destroying their traditions, while others felt that the position in the Royal Guard was just the next evolution of the Sun Guard. When the Emperor was killed, the Thursians became even more isolated, strengthening their army and cultural identity, and were later able to defend themselves from the invading Yuuzhan Vong. So that's it for the Sun Guard, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. They were originally created just to be a short mention that explained where the inspiration for the Royal Guard's armor came from, and their names were all supposed to be based off of those used by ancient Romans. Their prophecy of the Son of Suns was a reference to a line in the second draft of the script of Star Wars, and they are now partially in canon via reference in Star Wars: The Essential Guide to Warfare, Author's Cut. So that's it for the Sun Guard. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you want to check out our social media, or ways that you can help support this channel, be sure to check out the description down below. If you want to see more, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications. But more important than all that, remember, never help a Sith Lord rise to power, and the Force will be with you, always.